Hi everybody, welcome to Bookies. I'm Bear. Thanks for clicking on the link and watching the video. And I really mean that. I appreciate it every time that I see that one of the book reviews has got an additional view. So thank you. You know, one thing I've noticed about books that have won a prize or have been shortlisted for that prize, that when people review them, you tend to see a trend one way or the other. So the first trend is because it won a prize, the reviews get inflated a little bit, right? It's like, oh, this is supposed to be good, so I'm going to grade it a little better. And then there's also the other trend that bends the complete opposite way, which is the contrarian trend, which if everybody likes it, I don't, that kind of thing. It's kind of the teenager vibe. Today, however, we are going to steer right down the middle as we talk about Flesh by David Szalay. But before we go there, let me pitch the channel. So this is the only channel that I'm aware of that when monetized, and Lord knows when that's going to be, but I'm working at it. We're going to give all that money to local libraries, literacy programs, both in my area and in the area of subscribers. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to actually do some good with YouTube because, in my opinion, a lot of the stuff you see on YouTube is not so good. So if you like that idea, please remember to subscribe after you've done watching this video. Today we're talking about Flesh by David Szalay, and it won the Booker Prize in 2025. However, I'm just going to be right out front with how I feel about this novel. I thought it was very average. There's really no grand revelations in this novel. There's nothing there to make you think about important religious, social, or political thought. It's not funny. It just doesn't hit anywhere, in my opinion. It just is. Taste is unique to every individual, so what I may not enjoy, you actually might. So I'm going to talk about the themes of the novel, and if something appeals to you, then read it. Here we go. I'll start with a bare bones sketch of the plot. So our main character is a Hungarian man named Istvan. And this novel is about his life and the stages of his life as he goes through it. We're going to find that Istvan has kind of a hard life at the beginning, and then through a series of lucky breaks by meeting the right people by accident, he progresses in his life and he becomes more and more influential and wealthy. And so essentially, this is a novel of a success story made out of an average man's life who got some lucky breaks. That's Flesh. The writing in this novel is very, very minimalist. Istvan is a man of few words. You can read this whole novel, and I think you'd be surprised if he was able to string more than 3 or 4 sentences together. But I'll give credit here. I mean, clearly this is an intentional device used by Szalay. And, you know, if that's the way he wanted to craft that character, then he did it spot on. I have no quibble with that. What he intended, I think he accomplished. But still, let me just give you a made-up example. So this is me making something up to describe the dialogue in this particular novel. Here's the part of the stranger. Istvan, your father, mother, all of your children, aunts and uncles were killed in a horrible accident involving a vacuum cleaner, 2 ferrets, and industrial solvent. How do you feel about that? Istvan, okay. That's it. I mean, you see a lot of that. It's kind of weird. And yeah, you know, it's hard to do humor on a YouTube review, but there you go. I'm old, humor me. But the point at that lame attempt at humor is to illustrate just basically how Istvan is written in the narrative and the dialogue is written in this novel. It's very sparse. It doesn't really give you anything to grasp onto and really enjoy. The narrative is choppy. Istvan says little, he does little, and you can expect that throughout the novel. But on the subject of doing little, let me tell you about how the novel is structured. There's really no grand surprises here. The narrative goes from point A, when Istvan is a younger man, all the way to where he's an older man. Each chapter concludes a stage in Istvan's life. The chapter, as you begin the next chapter, you're going to see that the life of Istvan has advanced 6 or 7 years. So what you're going to find is that at the end of each chapter and the beginning of the next chapter, there is a gap of time. So it kind of begs the question, what changes during those gaps of time? Not a lot. This brand of cigarettes he smokes changes. The food he eats changes. The woman that he's sleeping with changes. And on that subject, the subject of women, because ultimately it's who he marries that makes him wealthy. You remember that quote at the very beginning of the video? Yeah, as far as Istvan's concerned, one woman's as good as another, and they're only slightly differentiated by possibly the wealth that she may bring them. The man seems emotionally bereft. In truth, Flesh is a novel that is about a body in motion moving forward in life without making any meaningful connections. Istvan is neither good nor bad. He's rather amoral, and he doesn't even have the decency to be morally ambiguous. But here's the odd thing. It's interesting when you really think about a novel that maybe you didn't enjoy so much, and the thing you didn't enjoy is actually the thing that the author does well. So you have to give credit for that. Here we have a dull man living essentially a dull life, highlighted by some fortuitous events that make him wealthy. And it's just that fleeting sense of the life of a dull man that I have to say Szalay really nails. I mean, I think that's kind of what he was going for. And if it wasn't, I've just created a means to understand the novel and add deeper meaning to something that wasn't. I hope that's not the case, but I'm going to give Szalay credit and say, yeah, this is exactly the point he's trying to make. I thought the tone of this novel was distinctly masculine. And what I mean by that is there's violence, there's sex. It's kind of like these superficial externalities of being male that are highlighted. But it's interesting because there's other elements in there that kind of cut against that thought of this being a very masculine novel. There's passivity, there's resignation, there's this numbness and the randomness of falling into things in your life that actually bring you success. And so the reader could ask himself or herself, well, what is flesh? What's with the title? I look at it as, well, it's the exterior, it's the physicality. It's essentially body without regard to spirit. And if all we are is body and not spirit, then yeah, I guess you could say life is essentially as Szalay has drafted it for Istvan. You were born, you grow up, you grow old, and you die. If you're one of those people that can try to parse out meaning from something that is seemingly very vanilla, well, buy the novel and read it, parse out the meaning. I've done a little bit of that here. If you're really looking for something that's going to grip you and it's going to bring you some aspect of emotion, this novel's not for you. And so those are my thoughts on 2025's Booker Prize winner, Flesh by David Szalay. With that, right about now, you are going to see a little circle of a picture of me when I was a naval officer way back in the mid-1990s. And if you click on that, you can subscribe to the channel. Once again, I'd really love to have you. And I'm also going to put a little box there that you can click on my book review of James by Percival Everett, which was a delightful novel. So if If you've been burned out by this book review about an average novel that I'm giving 3 stars out of 5, click on James and enjoy that. With that, everybody, have a great day. God bless.